Do you ever have a day when bad turns to worse and you feel anxiety and troubles filling up to your mind and you find yourself turning into a real Scrooge? When you think that everyone who goes around with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stick of holly through his heart. You keep Christmas in your way and I will keep it in mine. And then you stop and you sit down on your favorite red couch, put your glasses on, take off your 18th century nightcap, and turn to The House of Wooden Santas by Kevin Major. 9 days to Christmas. Jonathan says not to forget your skates, Jesse's mother called out to him. He just hung up the telephone. Jesse looked out at his bedroom window. The frost overnight had made wonderful patterns on the glass. His eyes traced the crystal swirls. Sunshine flooded the world outside. The snow gleamed. Jesse could see smoke rising straight up from the houses at the end of the road. Jesse dug out his skates from the back of the closet. He sat on the corner of the bed for a while, looking them over. He touched the blades with his thumb. They were still sharp. It brought back the memory of his best goal ever, the time he deked the goalie on the breakaway and scored to win the playoff game. He put the skate guards on the blades, tied the laces together, and slung the skates over his shoulder. It would be good just to have him on his feet again. The rink wasn't nearly as bad as he had imagined it. The ice was rough in places and he couldn't build up any speed like he loved to, but it was crazy fun to take a flying leap into the snowbank and lie there under the sky, the snowflakes drifting around him and his breath billowing out in the clouds. Of course, he loved the fact that he could score tons of goals on Jonathan. When two other boys saw them having so much fun, they showed up with their skates and the four of them made teams. Jesse and Jonathan were the Leafs. And right then and there, they played the final game for the Stanley Cup. And of course, the Leafs won. They celebrated the first day on the rink with Mr. Agnew's pea soup and dumplings. Jonathan ate 3 bowls of it. And Jesse, even though he never liked soup much, finished off a second helping. His mother showed up with a plate full of cookies just as they finished. Raspberry jams, still warm. When I was a little girl, my mother would make these every Christmas, she said. Deadly, said Jonathan, and scooped up another one. Reverend Agnew smiled. Doesn't Christmas make you long to be a child again? The sounds, the glimpses of secrets that made you so excited you couldn't sleep. Jesse had been sitting through all of it without saying a word. But the more they talked, the more excited he became. It was building up a fantastic idea in his head. He couldn't stand it any longer. He dragged Jonathan away to the basement, pretending he had to show him some new hockey move. Jonathan grabbed a stick, but Jesse took it out of his hand and led him to the corner of the basement where there was no chance they would be heard. I don't get it, said Jonathan. I've got this brainwave, said Jesse. I've got a way to make Miss Wenzel change her mind. They slapped each other's hands as if they had just scored a goal. How? Said Jonathan. We get her in the Christmas spirit, like she must have been when she was a little girl. Then she'll have to change her mind. Remember? Peace on earth and goodwill to men and women, said Jonathan. But what if she's been crabby all her life? Come on, nobody can be like that. Jonathan was thinking. You're right, he said. There's nobody who doesn't try to be at least a bit good this time of year, just in case. Then he added, okay, where do we start? First thing we do is scout out her house. Then we start making plans. You mean Operational Wenzel goes into action? Right now? Right now. They left the house with a secret mission. They were supposed to be going to the convenience store to spend some of Jonathan's allowance. But what they were really doing was going to the store, spending the money, and scouting out the Wenzel house. It was up a side road not far from the store. As it came in sight, they took to the woods and approached it under the cover of some pine trees. They chewed long shoestrings of red licorice and took careful note of every important detail about the house. "Chimney," said Jessie. "That means fireplace." "No reef on the front door. That means doesn't like Christmas visitors." "No Christmas lights on the tree in the front yard. That means hates Christmas." The boys were secretly hoping Mrs. Wenzel would come out the front door and pass right by without seeing them, but they had no such luck. On the way back to Jonathan's house, they tried to figure out what they could do with all the information they had gathered so far. Jessie started but gave up. He summoned up new courage. If she's going to get the Christmas spirit, then the first thing she's got to do is to believe in Santa Claus. Jonathan didn't say anything. "Right? I guess so." Jessie looked him in the eye. "What if there isn't one?" Jonathan said weakly. "What if there is?" Jessie snapped back. "If everyone had to see everything before they could believe in it, then nobody would believe in God either." "I know that." "This could be your test," said Jessie. "If Mrs. Wenzel gets the Christmas spirit and changes her mind, then there is a Santa Claus. If she doesn't, there's not?" "Exactly." "Wicked," said Jonathan. The boys paused for a minute, as if they needed time for it all to sink in. "So how do we get Mrs. Wenzel into the Christmas spirit?" Jonathan asked. "For that we go to the guy himself." "Santa Claus?" "Yep." Jonathan stared at Jessie. He didn't get it. "You gotta have trust," said Jessie. "That's what my mother says." That night, Jessie sat on the sofa and studied his mother's newest Santa for clues he was looking for. "In the house of wooden Santas," said his mother. "Wait." She looked at him curiously. "I'm trying to concentrate," said Jessie. He ignored his mother and stared at the wooden figure. She left the room and went into the kitchen. "In the house of wooden Santas," Jessie began. "Hey," said his mother as she came back into the room, sipping a mug of tea. "That's my line." "Shh." With a finger to his lips, Jessie continued. "It's a Santa who's trying to tell me something. He's saying, 'I am Santa of family and friends.' She has never forgotten their good times together. In this sack are the memories. Dig them out, see them, hear them, feel them." His mother kissed him and exclaimed, "You came up with that all by yourself? You're so precious." Jessie opened his eyes. He was a bit stunned for the moment. "I had help," he stammered. He really did. It was as if Santa had put a staff in his hand and pointed him to the sack. In the sack he found what he was looking for. His mother was smiling broadly. Jessie didn't have the heart to tell her, but his mother wasn't really the she he and Santa were talking about. Nope. The sack had to be opened for someone else. And tomorrow, he and Jonathan would be the ones to open it and start the digging. Until tomorrow.